Welcome back. One of the biggest events ever held in Washington was 20 years ago this weekend. The Million Man March took place in early October 1995. The event brought hundreds of thousands and perhaps a million African-American men and boys to the mall. People from all walks of life and from all across the nation. This weekend there will be an event to commemorate the gathering, and our D.C. Bureau Chief Sam Ford will join us with a preview momentarily. But first, here is part of the report that Sam filed for ABC 7 News the day of the march.
Farrakhan had said he wanted to hold this march on a Monday on the Capitol grounds so Congress could see it. But Congress, for the most part, wasn't there, particularly Republicans. But the argument of many making addresses was that congressional politicians have been fomenting pressure against black people to get elected.
The political story of '94 was the angry white man voted in a new Congress. Well, get ready, America, for the story of '96. When the enlightened black man brings in a new Congress.
Big push by Farrakhan and others last week was to organize and get registered 8 million blacks who don't vote. That could impact big states because half of all American black voters live in just 8 states. But the Joint Center representative noted that getting people registered is only part of the problem and that traditionally a lot more people register than actually go out and vote. In Northwest Washington, I'm Sam Ford, News 7.
And Sam joins us now from the west steps of the U.S. Capitol. Sam, thanks for providing that piece for us. Great to have that perspective. Talk about how it is that that gathering was so large and what some of the objectives or goals of the organizers and participants were.
Well, it was large because the Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan put out the call. It went out across the country, and I think people wanted to have some reaction. That was right after the contract with America, and the Democrats who'd had control of this body here for 40 years lost control for the first time, and I think they wanted to make a statement. And also there were a number of issues with a soaring murder rate, a number of things like that, where I think they wanted black men to sort of stop and think about what was going on. Now, 20 years later, we have a number of the same issues. The murder rate certainly is not as high. What's interesting here is that at that time they were putting harsh sentences. They were very harsh sentences for example, drug crimes. Jesse Jackson made the point at that particular rally that to get the same amount of time for $45,000 worth of marijuana and $8,000 worth of powder cocaine, it only took $29 worth of crack cocaine. So these laws came in, put a lot of black men in jail for a long time. The story today is that they say these laws were too harsh, and they're letting a lot of these people out of jail, particularly nonviolent offenders. It's a bipartisan effort here on Capitol Hill. So things have changed in that sense, and I think they just wanted to come back and commemorate it. Nobody is predicting 1 million men. I noticed in the news conference that we just heard here, they said hundreds of thousands. So even they're not expecting 1 million men to come here this time, and I don't think anybody's expecting that. But a lot of security here, and a lot of people are a little grayer, and I think somewhat excited about this march. I've talked to some young people, Bruce, and I said, well, how old were you at the time of this march? And I just talked to one of our interns. He said he was 1 year old. We talked to one of our engineers at the station. He said he was 5 years old. So time does fly, but I understand you as well.
I was, yeah, so
this march
so
20 years ago.
I'm doing the math. I was 33, and it was one of the most exciting events I ever covered. If we have time, I'll talk more about that in a second. In terms of this weekend, Sam, what's the overarching theme?
Well, the theme is called Justice or Else. That is the theme. And one of the reporters here asked the speakers at the news conference, what does that mean? And the speaker said, basically, tune in tomorrow. You'll hear from Minister Louis Farrakhan, and he will tell you what that means. So they didn't even want to discuss that here, or at least say what they thought it meant here. But that is the theme, Justice or Else. There are a number of groups coming, and we can't really see it right now. I don't know if you want to go to a little video so Peggy can turn around and give you just a shot of this teepee out here. Peggy, if you could just swing around and give them a shot of a teepee, and I think when we're in place we can show you.
Sure.
But there is a teepee out here, and they've invited Native Americans to this march and put a teepee on the grounds of the Capitol as part of what they are trying to accomplish here, which is really kind of different and kind of interesting.
So, Sam,
we did not see that last time. But as we go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say we have about 1:15 left. I want to use it in part to talk about what made the '95 event so special. This was an event where strangers went up to one another and interacted like they were friends. I can tell you to be one of the only white people in a crowd of 1 million. It was an extraordinary occasion. People wanted to come up to me and tell me their story. It was one of those events, even though you were supposed to remain objective, I really hated when it was over. It was fascinating and fantastic event. But what made it that sort of thing where strangers would embrace and talk and interact? What made it what it was?
Well, in truth, Bruce, that was true. I can remember when I was leaving here, I didn't even dare to try to catch a metro out of here because I figure, I live in D.C., the best way to get home would just be to walk. And I noticed walking with a group of teenage young black guys who were walking along. Normally, I wouldn't engage a group of young guys in conversation just out of the blue. But we looked at each other, we talked, we laughed and talked all the way up the hill as I was going home or they were going wherever they were going. That was one of those things. I think it brought a lot of unity, particularly to the black men who were here that day. And you'll hear the leaders say that it also brought some significance. It got more black men registered to vote, more efforts in terms of black men trying to help each other. So that is one of the things, or some of the things that they're saying that this first march 20 years ago actually accomplished.
Sam Ford, always great having you with us. Thank you very much for your time. We'll talk with you again. Back with a program note after this.